PowerPoint pulled up. Can you move towards me a little bit?
Yeah. Is that good?
Why is it doing this?
Is it blurry?
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna. Okay. I'm gonna leave. All right. Cool. All right, everybody. Whenever you are ready, you can go ahead and get started.
All right. Can you go 2 slides in?
Yeah.
So another day passes. When was the last time you heard of a mass shooting from the national news networks in the United States? A month? A week? Maybe even a day? Mass shootings are more prevalent now than at any other point in the history of the United States, or even the world for that matter. Many Americans wonder just where the next shooting will be. It seems like nowhere is safe these days. Schools, shopping malls, churches, movie theaters, and a multitude of other settings have been the targets for mass shooters. Victims of these mass shootings have ranged in age from 6 years old up to the elderly 80s. I myself am a gun owner and enjoy trap shooting in my spare time. I've been around guns my entire life and I can admire them for what they are. However, seeing that children were shot in the news at Sandy Hook was a real eye-opener. Don't get me wrong, I completely understand what the Second Amendment protects, and that it is an American citizen's right to own a firearm. But ask yourself these questions. When does it become the responsibility of the United States to prevent mass shootings which kill thousands every year? What if the next mass shooting harmed a loved one of yours? Although disregarding the Second Amendment is an unfavorable decision, I strongly believe that gun violence is a prominent issue in the present media due to failed background checks, lack of governmental funding for mental health research, and the accessibility of military-grade weaponry for the civilian market. Next slide, please. Before we even dive into the controversies surrounding gun violence, we have to take a look at the frightening statistics surrounding the topic. Understanding just how many mass shootings occur every year and how many casualties have been affected is truly eye-opening. Next slide. According to the FBI, a mass shooting is considered a shooting in which 4 or more people, excluding the shooter or shooters, were shot. In 2013, a federal law reduced this figure to 3 or more. From this new federal law, the number of shooting incidents rose astonishingly. Gun violence has rapidly increased in the past few decades. Statistics from Gun Violence Archives, which was last updated on November 5, 2019 by James Fisher, show that through the late 1980s, there were no more than 5 mass shootings a year. Through the 1990s and 2000s, the rate fluctuated and occasionally climbed to as high as 10 per year. Statistically, victims range in age from 23 to 52 years old. Many of these shootings were not in public areas and were not particularly given any spotlight in the news. So, as one would assume, because national news coverage of mass shootings was not as prevalent as it is today, many Americans were simply unconvinced that mass shootings were even an issue until the mid-2000s, shortly after Columbine, when the number of mass shootings began to climb. According to the 2019 article, The Science of Gun Violence, written by Russell Jaskalian, since 2011, the rate of mass shootings has skyrocketed, climbing first into the teens, then peaking at 473 in 2016, with the year 2018 ending in a total of 323 mass shootings in the United States. The frequency of mass shootings is the highest within America's borders. As you can see here, these are just the mass shootings or incidents of mass shootings alone in 2019. Next slide, please. As many of you know, guns are frequently portrayed in Hollywood as tools of excitement and action in both movies and video games. Many companies have now adopted the gun market in their stores as the popularity in shooting has increased dramatically over the years. Sporting goods stores are a prime location for purchasing firearms. However, many employees selling these weapons are inexperienced, which leads to guns being sold to individuals who lack the certain qualifications to own a firearm. According to the 2017 Vox article, Mass Shootings in Sandy Hook, approximately 60% of all weapons used in mass shootings were either stolen or obtained while holdings were placed on background checks. Next slide, please. Holds on background checks are commonplace while purchasing a weapon, as many forms of ID need to be provided and reviewed by the government. While many individuals are not criminals purchasing these weapons, the stores supporting the selling of firearms should work closer with local police departments to better assess possible warrants, criminal backgrounds, or any other material that would deem the individual unsuitable to carry a weapon. Like many have argued, criminals will always find a way to get weapons illegally if they cannot purchase them legally. While this is true, the rate of illegal weapons used in mass shootings would certainly plummet, which would keep weapons out of the hands of criminals. According to the 2018 article, Mass Shootings of America, Understanding the Topics and Debates, written by Richard Tench, The NSA and CIA have invested millions of dollars into battling the dark web, where many of these weapons are being bought off the black market. With technological advancements of software, these government agencies have tracked and located over $100 million worth of illegal guns being sold on the black market. However, returning back to background checks, a way to combat the increasing problem of guns obtained illegally would be for the government to create a universal background check that would be heavily monitored by agencies devoted to surveying these public records. Next slide, please. Alongside faulty background checks, certain types of weapons can be bought from gun stores that are considered military grade. Next slide. The FBI defines military grade weapons as any purchasable service-issued weapon that has been used by the United States Armed Forces in combat. An example would be an M4 assault rifle as seen in this picture. A wide range of guns can be bought from gun stores, ranging from small 22 caliber bullets to 50 caliber long rifles. The military grade weapons can come in with increased ammo capacity, as well as the ability to cycle more powerful rounds. And at this point, the fun of shooting targets is no longer apparent, in my opinion. The federal assault weapons ban that was in effect between 1994 and 2004 outlawed the manufacture for civilian use of some semi-automatic firearms and large capacity magazines. Data compiled by the Harvard School of Public Health show that mass shootings have occurred with greater frequency since the ban was lifted in 2004, and the victim count has risen sharply due to the fact. Next slide, please. With faulty background checks and increasing ability to purchase military weapons from gun stores, gun violence can be traced back to individuals who are suffering from mental health disabilities. Last year, according to the United States government budget, American tax dollars were spent most heavily on the defense budget. Over $650 billion went towards this budget, while only a mere $5 billion went towards the research of mental health. Although Americans want safe protection from our enemies, some redirected funds towards mental health would benefit the process of helping troubled individuals who are planning to commit these violent acts. Next slide, please. According to the 2019 article, Understanding Gun Violence, Public Health versus Public Policy, written by James Ludwig and Peter Cook, many shooters fit the profile as mentally unstable. Around 30% of all shooters have had history of family or spousal abuse, while another 20% were driven by PTSD soldiers returning from war. Mental health is a seriously underestimated problem in the United States, and should be regarded as such. Together, these elements of mental health make up approximately 50% of the total mass shootings in America. This should be more than enough evidence for the United States government to aid funding for the mental health research. Simply labeling a person who kills children in a mass shooting as crazy does not solve the problem, and shows just how unaware the American people are to the dangers of not preventing or treating mental disabilities. With these newfound funds, medicine for the treatment of mental health disabilities can be combated at the highest ability. Assisting troubled individuals would prevent many mass shootings in the future. Next slide, please. In conclusion, gun violence is a very serious and costly topic that has life or death consequences. Many Americans are wondering if it would be safe to send their children to school without the possibility of being shot. The world we know seems scarier as time passes on. While the perfect solution to solving gun violence does not exist, I strongly believe that with better background checks, reduced access to military-grade weapons towards the civilian market, and some redirected funds to assist those struggling with mental disabilities could be the key to solving this nightmare topic of gun violence. I hope you all have learned a little bit of the controversies and debates surrounding gun violence, and I hope that you can go forth and make your own judgments about whether or not guns belong in the hands of people. Where am I at? 7?
8.
Can I ask questions? Do you guys have any questions?
Lois does.
Yeah.
When did you get your gun?
When did I get my gun? I got it as a birthday present when I was 6 years old.
Oh.
Yeah.
Make up for that.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Alrighty.